And that's I've heard good things about that. The High Republic.
I've heard very good things.
I'm about 80% of the way through Light of the Jedi now, and I'm still loving it.
Then after that, it's what's the one after that? I can't remember what its name is. It's the least interesting one that seems to me, and then the one after that looks really interesting. It's like, God, I can't remember these names. Fuck me. Ones that I know are like a dark side one. Then the second one looks. I didn't like the comic books kind of art style on the front.
Well, the first issue of the comic has already come out.
What's the second book after? What's the next book after Light of the Jedi?
So Light of the Jedi has just come out.
Because that's a novel rather than a comic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then on February 18th, you get 2 books come out. You get like a middle grade one called A Test of Courage, and then
that's I didn't like the look of that one.
I don't know. I'm tempted by it. It reads like a junior novel, and junior novels can actually be pretty descriptive and pretty well written. Like the prequel trilogy junior novels are fantastically written. But also coming out on the same day is a young adult novel called Into the Dark.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
I believe it was referenced in a passage I read last night from Light of the Jedi, so I am intrigued because it's a multimedia project. Where like with the Doctor Who Time Lord Victorious thing, they all the different individual releases are meant to interconnect with one another.
Yeah.
And then coming out the 6th of July is the second big novel called The Rising Storm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, of course I'm going to get that. I want to ask you, Anthony, how are you finding Thrawn?
I've not read much. I've just started chapter 3.
Okay.
So he's just meeting the Emperor. So he's just been brought forth. And at the end of chapter 2, he talks about, can I speak to Skywalker? And you're like, oh no. And that brought up some questions for me that I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Is there anything in like Clone Wars or something before that where Anakin is there any been like depiction where Anakin has met Thrawn or the Chiss?
Read the second book, Thrawn Alliances.
Okay. So I'm assuming that has like a flashback to when he talks about
that tells the entire story.
Oh, okay. That's a bit weird because I was like, did I miss something in Clone Wars where there was a blue dude?
No, it's one of the 2 plots of that book.
Oh, okay, fair enough, cool.
You've got that plot, which is essentially the B plot of the book, but then you've got the A plot where he teams up with Vader.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. I'm hoping I've indoctrinated you into reading the books now, because I've tried and failed with Dan so many times.
I mean, it's good so far. Like, I'm obviously, chapter 3 is just obviously not that far in it at all. And when I'm reading it and I read the Emperor's dialogue, and I'm like, I can hear like Sam Witwer. And it's like,
I will happily give you a reading list of the best books.
Thinking about, because I was watching more of Rebels today and I was making notes, and I was like, it was funny how I remember you were talking to me about sending me that list of episodes, and I was like, and then I swear you were mentioned to me once about like a list of episodes, what's filler and what isn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
Then I just started watching it all from the beginning anyway.
That's fine.
But yes, but no, so far it's good. Like the stuff on the planet where he's exiled, and I'm like, I mean, I like it. Like Eli seems like a pretty cool dude. Like the sort of the other question as well I have about the Emperor. Like, so you know how the Empire as a whole is pretty racist. towards anything that isn't. Well, like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't like
Just a
any
little
other.
bit.
Is the Emperor as racist as the Empire?
No.
It's weird that because he's the one who's willing to acquire other cultural stuff if it benefits him. So I'm like, and obviously, speaking of Thrawn, I've just started season 3 of Rebels. Oh, I can't articulate how good he is, but he's not, like, you know what I mean. He popped up on screen. I was like, oh my god.
So that's why Lawrence wanted me to read the book. It all
Yeah, I
makes
know,
sense.
yeah. It's good. Like, and I started reading that before I'd heard Lars Mikkelsen. And I was like, now when I read Thrawn, I'll be like, it's Lars Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
But like, even the sort of subtler stuff where he's getting coaching from Eli to speak like English, or not English, but like
Basic.
Yeah, basic. That's it. Like, where he's helping him learn basic better, and it's good. Like, it's like how he talks about his ambitions and how he sort of can read people really well. Like, he knows he knows about the chain of command, and he respects authority and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's good so far. Like, I'll carry on with it.
Yeah, I definitely want to give you a reading list of the best novels to explore, to expand your knowledge and fandom of.
No, fair enough.
If you can tackle Thrawn, then you can tackle anything.
Yeah. I mean, like, even the cover is pretty, like...
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah,
like,
the cover is very nice.
it's very... Obviously, in terms of book covers, it's just the dude's face, and, like...
The one that came out just recently, Thrawn Ascendancy, it's like a prequel to that one. But it's special because its pages are blue.
Really?
They've got blue borders on all of them.
That's kind of cool.
Cool. That's cool.
I would like to hear about
about
Lawrence's High Republic.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any good takeaways from that?
The High Republic is a time of peace where everybody is unified and happy and living the life of...
And there's no traffic accidents.
Yeah, well, then this thing happens. And basically the planet Hetzel is doomed because there's this big disaster, there's this huge meteor shower which is coming for the planet because something's happened in hyperspace. Something catastrophic has happened. They've got to try and save people from the planet and stop these massive pieces of debris smashing into this world. And it comes to light that there is a group of marauders going about called the Nile.
Yeah.
And to basically sum them up, they're like space Vikings. They live by this very loose creed of we're free people, we can do whatever we want, we can enjoy ourselves and not be ruled by rules and regulations.
Yeah.
It's a bit contradictory because in their own system of living, they're very layered in terms of hierarchy and all of that. They've got that kind of system, so they contradict themselves a little bit. But anyway, so once this disaster has come and gone, there's still a big threat because the Hetzel system is only one case of these emergencies coming through. There's still like all of these 70 odd pieces of debris that are going to come in and smash into loads of other systems. So the Republic have to try and figure out, well, how do we guesstimate where all of these disasters are going to happen? And how can we stop this? And how can we prevent the Nile from meddling? So that's kind of a rough overview as to what's been happening so far. Again, I've not finished the book yet, so I don't know what happens in the end. But it's very, very interesting stuff. And it's a very good read. It's a very easy read. Like Charles Soule, who did the second run of the Darth Vader comics, has written this, and
Okay.
he gets Star Wars. He knows how to write it. It's so just involved and beautifully written.
What are the characters like without obviously spoiling too much? But what are the characters like?
Interesting. They're very human. Like your main characters are, of course, the Jedi at the time, and you get inside their head quite a lot. And there's a Padawan called Bell who you get into the head of quite a lot. Where his master is trying to teach him a specific technique with the Force, and he's struggling with it quite a lot. And so you get to explore his difficulty learning it. And indeed, when they go up against the Nile, how it tries to come into play with that, and the struggles of being in the moment can affect him. You've got Avar Kriss, who is like if Jedi had prefects for the gold standard of what a Jedi should be.
Damn.
But she's also very human, and she's partnered up with this this Jedi who she's basically grown up with all this time. I'm reading between the lines a bit, and I'm predicting there may be potentially something more going on. Maybe in the future, but of course, as they're Jedi, they can't do anything as it is. It's like a little prediction that I'm gonna read. Yoda's not really in it much. He's got his own thing in the Star Wars Adventure comics. So he pops in. Yawel Poof pops in. Oppo Rancisis pops in. You know, like these Jedi who are in the prequels that you wouldn't think would actually be around at this time, but here they are.
Well, Yoda's like 900 years old, isn't he? So he'd be still young enough to be in. He'd be old enough to be in the High Republic and still be a capable.
Still be a master and can. Yeah.
There's this thing here where the Jedi that Avar's quite close to, Elzar. This insinuates that he came up with the Jedi mind trick.
Oh, right.
Because there's a passage here. Avar suspected he was considering a use of the Force right then. However, what most Jedi called the mind touch, and he called it the mind trick. He found it a more honest way to describe what was actually being done. Elzar would lift two fingers in a subtle gesture and touch redacted minds with the Force, and then they would do whatever Elzar said next. So it kind of insinuates that he came up with the technique.
Or is it that he coined the name for the technique?
Well, possibly.
Yeah.
Depends on how you read it.
Yeah.
It has a very interesting description of how hyperspace works.
Okay.
So hyperspace is not like real space. Once a ship or anything else enters it, there is no way to encounter anything. You're in a bubble of space-time that nothing else can interact with, because each lane is, as far as we can tell, its own distinct plane of existence.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
So when a specific ship enters hyperspace, it's in its own little pocket.
Yeah, so like let's say, you know, like you can't hit a planet if you're going through hyperspace.
Yeah.
There's nothing in hyperspace.
Okay. But whereas in the hyperspace that I've seen in stuff like Clone Wars and Rebels, if two ships are in the same...
They can go into the same lane. Yeah.
But could I, this is a bit too nerdy, but if I were like a pirate in a hypership and I went in and I wanted to like, would my ship be able to physically touch the other ship?
If you were in the same lane?
I can't tell you that, because that would give away...
Yeah, that actually happens in the story, I've heard.
Fair enough, right, we won't. Okay.